Hi, this is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots and Genealogy, and I'm here today with two special guests, Gary and Ilene Modica, and they have a blog, and they also have written a book about their Italian journey, and the book is actually our Italian journey. So welcome, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thanks,
Thank
Robert.
you.
Nice
Thanks
to
for
meet
having
you.
us.
So I think probably the first question is, I know you spent a year traveling to Italy. You downsized. You spent a year there. That's what the book and the blog is about, our Italian journey. So whatever possessed you to just drop everything and do that?
It's a good question. We were coming back from Italy in 2012. The plane just took off from Rome. I did my Arrivederci Roma thing, sang a little bit. And sitting back, I just thought to myself, man, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to live there? And, I looked at her and she looked at me, and I think we both come up with the idea about the same time. And then her next question was, how do we accomplish that? So we both started looking up, how do we get citizenship, dual citizenship? There's a couple of ways you can go. We chose the Italian consulate in Los Angeles, LA. But for me, it became something special. It became my quest in life. I had to bring my family's name back to Sicily, period. And so it was, I'm getting a little choked up every time I think about it.
He does. He brings a tear to my eye.
I was, growing up, I was a Polish Italian boy in a Polish Italian neighborhood. And my grandmother and my uncles, not my aunt, always referred to me as the Polak, where my brother was God. My brother was the first boy born. He can break a window. I got the broomstick over the back, So I had to prove that I was Italian. And that was my quest. My quest was to be the only grandchild in the family to ever go to Italy, let alone become a citizen, and B, just to bring my family's name back. That was the most important thing to me. And then we made it happen from there.
Yeah, and I could relate to that a little bit. We lived in England for a couple of years, and we made it. We went to Rome. Of course, you always have to go to Rome, and then we went and we spent a week in Sorrento. And to your point, especially in Sorrento, when you walk around the town, and there was the Sorrentino Club on the corner, and
Yes.
very interesting to see that. But like you, my wife said to me, and now she's half Sicilian. Her mom was Sicilian, but she said to me, she said, "You love it here, don't you?" And I said, "I feel like I belong here. I feel like I'm among my people."
Yeah.
And that was 25 years ago. We hadn't been back. We were supposed to go back. We were supposed to go in April last year. Yeah, we now have that one. And since then, I have found all this family. But we made a short stop in Naples. And I didn't realize at the time, because I hadn't started doing any research then, that my grandmother, my great grandmother, and for both sides of the family, actually, they only lived about a half a mile from the train station in Naples. We could have walked there, but I had no idea. And now that I have all the records, I have all the addresses, and, it would have been right there. So before this, had you done any research into the family in Sicily, or have you done any since?
I haven't, I didn't do any before. Oh, by the way, first thing, you said everybody has to go to Rome. Well, in Italy, all roads lead to Rome.
Yes, right.
So, I mean, yeah, that's the must.
It's still true.
It's still true. No, I really didn't do much research at all. I don't know. I didn't do any research when we were in Sicily. I didn't know what to expect in Licodia Eubea. I didn't expect the open arm greeting I got, and the people just wanting to say hello to us. Um, I did ask Angelina at the Comune if I have any living relatives there. And I was told my grandfather had a brother, but he no longer lives there. Well, no, he lived in Rhode Island and the Bronx. And I remember seeing him, meeting him when I was a kid, but I don't remember much about him. I still haven't done much in lineage. I know who my great grandfather was. I know who my great grandmother was, but that's as far back as I've gone.
What's funny is because of the blog, I one day got an email from this woman in Nevada, in Las Vegas, saying, I think we're related. And of course, she meant Gary's side of the family because I wasn't Italian till I got my Italian birth certificate and citizenship. And I was like, Gary, I said, this woman, you know, she's talking about a last name I remember hearing Gary talk about with our papers and everything. And it turns out that Alicia and Gary talked the next day. They connected, and the next day they found out that they were cousins. We never knew they existed. We had some of her family, her father and grandfather's information from our research when we were getting citizenship. So we shared the papers that we had for her family with her. And so
the funny thing is her mom came over from Italy in around 64, I want to say, maybe 63, 65, let's say 64. And I at that point in time, my father was dead. We used to go over my grandmother's house for the weekends. And first thing I would do when I got there Friday after school would sit down with Maria, her name was, and I would teach her English. She was going to night school, but she needed help. And I would sit and read, you know, the old Dick and Jane books.
Yeah.
With her and go over the alphabet. That's the first time I realized Italy's alphabet's a little bit shorter than ours.
That's right.
But you know, I helped her mother learn how to speak English, and
she actually remembers.
And I told her that, and Alicia said, "I asked my mom. You're right. She remembers.
She remembers you
teaching." Now I remember Alicia's two brothers being born. I never knew she was born.
Yeah. So a small world.
Yeah, that's funny. And you know, I had a similar thing with she's actually a fourth cousin, but the family was so tied together back in the 20s and the 30s because my dad's mom, her last name is Piermalo, and there were only two that came to America, her and her aunt.
No.
Everybody else is still there, and I found them on Facebook. I'm a Facebook nut. I sit there and look for people. My wife thinks I'm nuts. But I got a message from her and she said, I think we're researching the same person. I looked at an ancestry tree and I see you have a Maria Piermalo. And I said, yes, that's my great grandfather's sister. And we're definitely related. There's no question about it. She did ancestry and then we were a match and everything. But when we started talking to each other, we found out that because they were the only two people from Italy that came here, they stayed very, very tight through the 60s. And her grandmother was Beatrice. And I remember my father always saying, you know, we're going to Aunt Beatrice's house and things like that. So it was a find that it was just incredible. And she came over a couple of years ago, and once we got together, it was like we never left each other. I mean, there was just, you don't know how to explain those bonds, you know? Right. And that's what I hear with everybody who goes to Italy and meets people there or goes to the town. They're just embraced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Like what Gary said, we went to Licodia, Eubert in Catania.
It's in Catania.
To get our Italian birth and marriage certificates. While we were in Italy, we thought we should go there. The town was a hoot to get to, but that's in the book. but this town like opened their arms. And in fact, one point I thought we were being stalked by the cook from the restaurant the night before because he was like slowly like in the car, but coming along with us. And I was like, Gary, what's going on? And he gets out of the car and he wants to show us this church that's right there. And while we were at the consulate,
Now,
I mean,
keep in mind, the car is still running. The door is open. He's in the middle of a two-way street.
yeah,
Okay. And it didn't matter.
but this town, I mean, I think the most heartwarming for me was the day after we got our papers from Angelina, who was in the consulate. And again, she spoke no English. So it was, you know, a bit of a understanding and took a little time and it was great. And then the next day we were having breakfast at the bar across from the consulate and we're just sitting out on the patio, you know, having our la colazione. And all of a sudden Gary's poking me and we look up and out from the shutters is Angelina hanging out the window, buongiorno, buongiorno, Modica, buongiorno. And I was like, the tears were just pouring. I'm like, you know,
And the funny thing, there's a bunch of men sitting there, and a group of men, I should say, and they're looking at us like, are they special?
yeah.
You know, should
It was just a little town that made, which is now our hometown, that just made us feel special.
We'll be right back.
Experience Italy like never before, traveling with a scheduled group or create your own bespoke tour with friends with philitaly.com. Pack your bags and follow Phil. That's www.philitaly.co.
the thought that my name, her name, is registered in the same books that my grandfather's name and family's names are registered in is, I still think of that and I still get a chill. Just, you know, wow, I am part of that town now, period. That's it.
Yeah. See, now I didn't know that they did that. So they actually record you.
Yes. And you know, you know what made it even better? I got my papers on my birthday.
Oh, wow. That's
It happened to be
unbelievable.
February 20th. And I mean, it couldn't have been a better day. It really could not have been better.
And we're still in touch with everybody in that town.
Yeah.
You know, we have a greeting card business. So I send cards and photos from our trip and us together. And Angelina gave us permission to use her photo with her and Gary in the book. So when we return to Italy this year, we plan to bring a book to her. I know she doesn't probably read English, but she'll see her picture on page 50 and it'll be
Yeah. So let's talk a little about the book and the trip. And so you basically dropped everything and went to Italy for a year. And how did you decide where to go, when to go, and all of that?
Well, it was a promise we made to each other that if we ever got the citizenship with the roller coaster ride that we were on and the cost and that we would give a gift to each other of a year in Italy. That was something that was from day one we wanted to do.
Mhm.
And when it happened, you know, we decided we didn't want to stay in one place. We wanted to find our perfect town. And we had been to Italy many times before that. But we decided not one place this year. We would travel around. And so we started in Rome, and because it was Christmas time and I wanted to experience Christmas in Rome. Well, that turned out to be a little bit of a disappointment. Florence actually had more Christmas festivities than Rome, which surprised me.
We actually jumped on a train and went to Florence for 3 days to see Christmas.
So, and then we planned as we went along. It was great because we did plan Conversano, which is in Puglia, after Rome. So we had the 3 months in Rome and then 2 months in Puglia because we had never been to Puglia. So we wanted to check out Conversano, which took our hearts. But then we planned as we went along. So we didn't want to kind of zigzag across the whole peninsula. So we kind of made a conscious effort of where we were going to be going.
And even though we spent 90 days in Florence in 2017, our daughter and future son-in-law said that they were going to come and visit us for a week. Where, so we looked at each other and said, okay, where do we want to be for that week to show them Italy? And there's only one town that comes to mind, and that's Florence to me.
We both.
The Renaissance is, I mean, Florence, if I could live there, I'd be there in a
If we could
heartbeat.
afford it,
Yeah.
yes.
So so we spent that next month in Florence. They spent the week with us, which was outrageous. And then actually would be in a place for a week, and she'd look at me over coffee and say, have you figured out where we're going next? No. And that's how we did
planned
it,
it.
really. It was just hit and miss.
Well, that's probably the way to do it. Sometimes no planning is better planning than having this rigid, kind of thing. I mean, I've been looking now and where to go and what to see. And, like you said, my mom's family's from Puglia. And actually my uncle, my mother's oldest brother, did not leave there until 1950. When my grandparents came, he was about 2, and they left him with his grandfather, his grandmother and grandfather, with the thought that they were going to go back. Well, they started having children here, and then eventually he didn't want to come because that was his family. Then when he finally did want to come, he couldn't, because he had turned 18. He had to go in the Italian army. Then the war broke out, and he couldn't come. So he had never met his brothers and sisters, and he hadn't seen his mother and father for almost 40 years when he came here, and he came with his whole family.
Now you're going to make me cry.
And so all my cousins from my Uncle John were all born in Italy. Yeah. And so, I grew up with, of course, my grandparents had the Italian accent, but also my uncle and my cousins. And so, very interesting. And most of that family had come. My father's family was different. Like I said, only my grandmother came from her family. And from my father's family, it was only my grandfather and his brother that came. So I still haven't found any close cousins over there. But like I said, I found some third and fourth cousins. But as I was doing my ancestry, because the records from my grandmother's noble family are so good, I have roots in almost every province, somewhere along the line in Italy. So I'll ask you in a second what I want to ask you about for Marion, but I've been looking at places and just saying, gee, where do I want to go and where do I want to be? And we were talking just now. Well, maybe we should go for at least a month and look around and travel around. But if you're going to tell Marion one thing about why we should go spend any length of time in Italy, what would that be? Besides the food, I know the food is.
Italy.
Yeah.
It's Italy. I mean, the people, the sights, the architecture, the atmosphere. I am so much more relaxed over there. I go to Italy, I eat like a fool, and I lose weight. But I'm walking every day. It's just the ambiance of being in Italy for me, that it's the allure of being there. We walk down these cobblestone streets, and right away my mind starts to, I wonder what king or what nobleman or what peasant walked this street, and what were they thinking when they did? Granted, the shops weren't there, but what was on their minds back then? And I mean, you look around you, and that's all you see is historic sites, places where people pass through.
Yeah.
I mean, we rented a place in Florence for 90 days on top of a bar. Don't do that. Right down the block from Dante, where Dante
Oh,
was.
yeah.
That
Wow.
was his castle tower
And
that we were in.
it was, I mean, amazing to see this guy every morning, every day, dressed up like Dante, handing out his poetry. Okay. It was just amazing. It
There's something
really was
special.
amazing. It's Italy.
In fact,
Yeah.
I have a post coming up about it. What is the allure of Italy? And not everybody feels it. I know friends that they look at us, and it was way before the citizenship that I had this love.
Yeah, I think it's when we stepped off the plane in Venice for the first time.
I remember just standing there like deer in headlights, just absorbing, the Grand Canal and all the hustle and bustle of the boat. I don't know that I could tell you it's just food or people. There's something. There is something magical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
definitely is. Now, you had mentioned about finding your roots. I did hire a woman. I put out a question on a blog site, about my grandfather, and I was looking to find out where he was from. 4 people got back to me. 3 of them had the same information
Incorrect.
that, what's the search?
Ancestors.
Ancestors.
Ancestry.
Ancestors.
Okay. They all told me my grandfather came in through Ellis Island.
Mhm.
My grandfather came in through Boston Harbor. This woman gave me the birth certificate that the midwife signed when my grandfather was born, the address, everything. She had more information and yet didn't take a penny from me at that point in time. She showed me his records of coming over to America in 1908, and then my grandmother coming over, which she was married to somebody else at the time.
We've
So,
used her.
Ancestry didn't tell nothing.
Yeah.
I've gone back to Ancestry and I've written a letter saying my grandfather came through Boston Harbor. They told me, no, he came through Ellis Island.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
you have to really dig and you have to really search, but we have this
Yeah.
this woman's information that if people are looking, we give her the information because she really did find the needle in the haystack, and hence why we named our publishing company Boston Harbor Press.
Yeah. The funny thing about Ancestry is it's a lot of people who don't put the time in, who put information in there.
Yeah.
And, you have to take a lot of it with a grain of salt.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to do your own research.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've searched the Antonati and found a lot of things and a lot of birth records there. And the problem there is that you're relying on people to look at a record that was written in 1809 with handwriting like mine.
Yep.
And when they put the name in the search record, it sometimes doesn't look anything like what it's supposed to be. But
Well,
I found a lot of stuff there.
And then again, your ancestors are given all sorts of different last names. My grandfather doesn't show up as Sebastiano Modica until the 1940 census.
Mhm.
His last name in one census was Weir. How the hell they got that, I don't know. Warico, Majako. It's amazing what the English people did, what the American people did to Italian last names. But, in 1940, the census that counted.
At least it was right.
At least
At least it was
right.
right there. Yeah, and to your point earlier about walking around the streets, I mean, for me, what's incredible, and my cousin Linda was there, and she saw some of it up close, and I've gotten some things from some of my cousins there, but some of the places, in Naples, actually has the crest of some of my family names on it. So
Ah.
to be able to see that, I just, I'm dying to go there and see these places and take a picture for myself. And some of the houses are still there. Some of the Pier Malo house in Montebello is still there. The Duchess's house in Capricota is the town hall now. So I had this tour set up with somebody who actually, she calls it Italy rooting, and they actually bring you back to the period. And she says, I'm not going to tell you everything we're going to do because you need to be surprised. She says, but believe me, when we finally get to do this, you're going to be surprised at, what you're going to see and what you're going to learn. Again, back to the ancestry, what I think is a little bit better than ancestry is my heritage. No, I'm sorry, not my heritage, my family search. My family search, it's actually free. You
Yeah.
have to sign up.
That's
And
the one I went on that I've got this woman over there, Rafaela.
that's what you got. Yeah. Yeah. I find them to be a little bit better with the records as far as accuracy in
Yeah.
some cases. So you also now you wrote the book, you started the blog. What can people find on the blog that's going to either help them make a decision whether they want to get citizenship, whether they want to do a grand tour of Italy, food, or whatever else is on there?
We'll be right back.
Lafayette, we are here. The French history podcast for the American public by a Frenchman. Learn all about France's fascinating history, its great characters like Charlemagne, Joan of Arc, Louis XIV, or Napoleon, but also the great events that marked France, Europe, and sometimes the whole world. Lafayette, we are here. Available wherever you get your podcast or on LafayettePodcast.com. À bientôt.
Well, the blog I started, back in 2016. That definitely was first. And it was really, I didn't know what I was doing back then. I just knew that, after a trip or two, I was in love with this country. I had, no ties to it at that point. And so we just started talking about, I wanted to share some photos. I wanted a way of sharing some information. It has transpired into something completely different now, as most blogs do. But, sharing some recipes that we were in a restaurant and, we recreated, or the chef, gave us a hint on what to do. So it started in with some recipes. And then it was about helping people where to go.
Start their search too.
Where to go. There was a little bit about dual citizenship, and there is more, but we help people more now through email and through texting. In fact, yesterday got two people from an Instagram photo I posted about that they're getting citizenship, and one is going through the LA consulate like we did. But we love helping people personally, with that part of it. But there is some information about dual citizenship, but it really more turned into places to go. And, I love Rick Steves, and his books are awesome, but I wanted something more personal. So that's kind of where the blog is. It's more information about places and things to do and, things of that sort. Gary writes occasionally, more now. It's nice.
I'm fully retired now.
So he'll do that. But, and of course, we answer all questions in that. And when people tell us, I'm going to Rimini, and I was like, oh, we've been there. Let me tell you what you could do when you're in Rimini. Did you know San Marino is a separate country that's just up the hill, mountain. So it's more of us helping people and more just sharing information.
Yeah.
The book kind of happened because we were in Rome, and people have always said to us, I can't believe you sold everything. Everything you own is in 4 Rubbermaid tubs. And that's including my sewing machine that I will not yet because I am a quilter. And we just wanted to downsize and not have any major ties. And so when we were there, everybody kept saying, you're living a dream. You should write about it. And when I pitched the idea to him, he was like, we're not writers. And I still don't look at myself as a writer, but the feedback and the reviews that we have gotten from the book are just over the top heartwarming, telling people, people telling us, I'm sorry, you've taken me to a place I've always wanted to go, or you've taken me back to a place that I've been, but didn't see it through your eyes. And we actually alternate chapters, telling it from a different perspective, which we borrowed that concept from our author friends, Nancy and John Petrolia.
Yes.
Petrolia, sorry. I always say their name wrong.
I had a woman that I worked with at the golf store who got a copy of the book. And I remember just about the day I was leaving, she finally finished the book. And she said, thank you. I said, thank me for what? She said, with COVID, I haven't been able to get out and do anything. Her husband was died 3 years prior, and they used to travel a lot. She said, reading your book, actually, I felt like I was traveling with you. Where are we going next?
Oh, that's great. That's fabulous.
So, from that perspective of being cooped up like chickens in a chicken coop, it's an outlet. It could be an outlet. I don't know.
People tell us they've laughed and cried all at the same time, which, is, I just.
It was a royal pain in the butt to do. But, thinking back about it, it was, I enjoyed it, I guess.
See, we wrote it as we went along. So it wasn't like we were sitting and trying to remember. We'd come back from an event or, climbing a tower or whatever. And if it was his chapter to write, he was writing about that experience. I mean, it all happened in the moment. We talk about getting the citizenship and some past experiences, but it was all written as we went along. And when we came December 1st, the draft was done. The manuscript draft was done. And it was full editing from in 2020. It was all editing and that.
And I could relate because I'm in the process of writing a book about my research and my experience and my family and how I found it, especially the nobility side and that kind of thing. And it is a challenge. I mean, I pick it up and I do it for a while, and then I have to walk away and get the fog out of my head and go back and forth a few times. But the way you did it, that's pretty good because you were doing it as you went along. So that probably made it easier. And I told Marion earlier, because she always asked me who I'm interviewing. So I said, oh, this is a really interesting couple. I said, and they put all that stuff in 4 storage bins. And she says, you mean like storage crates? I said, no, bins. She said, how do they do that?
The Christmas bins, the green Rubbermaid tubs, everything, including our clothes. It all fits there. And we have one child that has a garage with space available that we live with. It's very liberating.
I know.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
That year in Italy, we had a pack for 4 seasons, which is unique because in Arizona, you have 2 seasons, hot and hotter. That's it. So we wound up mailing clothes back home. And I thought I packed pretty well. And yet half of the wardrobe I brought to Italy, I wound up sending back home because I had too much. And it's amazing how little you use when you stop and think about it. as to what's hanging in the closet.
Yeah, no, I know. Marion keeps telling me, you need to buy some more clothes. I said, for what? I said, they're just going to hang in the closet.
Yeah, I mean, I still have pants that I have in my closet that I haven't worn in over a year. Okay, and they're not going back to Italy.
Right. So now do you have a permanent place in Italy that you go back and forth to, or do you just rent for the 3 months that you're there? Just decide where you're going to go.
Yeah, we decide where we want to go and then we rent. I think this time we're going with more of a purpose, either to rent something, and I don't know if you've ever seen how they rent apartments in Italy. It's a long time rentals is you've got to give a 3 or a 4 year contract with the option of another 3 or 4 years. They call it a 4x4 or a 4x3. We're thinking of maybe doing that. So we do have a permanent address to go back to in whatever town we decide, and just come here for the winter months and then go back there for the rest of the year.
We've got 5 or 6
Or maybe buy a place. I don't know.
special towns. So unfortunately, Italy now bumping up the level of restrictions.
Yeah.
It may be a little more difficult till maybe the middle of the summer, we're hoping, but when travel opens up, so we're going to Lucca. So we head into Lucca, and if we need to stay within Lucca, we understand and will abide. We're good citizens. If we're allowed to travel through Tuscany, staying in your region, we will do that too. But we have about 5 or 6 towns that we could see ourselves living in very easily. And so, so those are on our radar of looking at places. If it's affordable, I'm not into reconstruction. I don't want it €1 home.
And then spend 150,000 fixing it.
Do it. I have a friend I just met, a fellow blogger that they're doing a reno right now. Yeah, that's not me. I'm adventurous, and I may only have 4 Rubbermaid tubs, but I'm not into renos, so that won't be us.
Yeah, and I have a friend from grammar school who she relocated there permanently 2 years ago. 2 years ago this month. And, she lived in LA. She did a similar thing. She put everything in storage. She packed up and went. She always wanted to go. But she had to go to I believe it's today. She had to go up to the embassy, the US embassy in Naples, or the consulate, to renew her US passport. And she said, I'm hoping they're not going to bother me on the train. She says, technically, I'm not really supposed to go. She said, but I can't miss this appointment, to renew my US passport.
If this appointment, you're allowed to travel.
Yeah, she said you needed papers and stuff like that, but but she's in Salerno, and she said, she said, this is funny. She said that everything's pretty much locked down. Your restaurants are open till 6 o'clock, and she said, but she says lingerie stores and makeup stores are open. They're considered necessities.
Yes.
Well, that's like when COVID hit here in Phoenix. Gary worked at the PGA Tour Superstore. That was an essential worker.
I guess you got to golf.
Somebody's got.
Well, the only sport you could really participate
was golf.
No.
Yeah.
So we were essential. We stayed open. Either that or we were greedy and we wanted the money. I don't know.
It's going to be different. And in fact, Robert, I'm actually looking forward to it. Everybody's like, you're going to be cooped up. I'm like, no, I want to experience this. I mean, we've experienced it here in Phoenix. I want to experience this pandemic as an Italian in Italy. I know it'll be different. I'm expecting it to be different. That's what I want to do. I want to give firsthand information to our subscribers and friends and that what it's all about over there.
Yeah, no, I know. And the people that I know over there and been talking to and asking them, they all kind of say the same thing. It's difficult, but we're getting through it, and we still do what we need to do, and you can't move around as much, but it is what it is. And hopefully with these vaccines, we'll get back to normal sometime soon. So if people want to either buy the book or get to your blog or contact you, how would they do that?
The book is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, Smashwords, Kobo, all of that. There's a link on the blog. So the blog is ouritalianjourney.com. And the book link is on there. The email is on the blog also. It's ouritalianjourney@gmail.com. And our social media is all there. They can follow us. Again, we love helping people. I mean, the blog is for information, but it is a great communication tool for people to get a hold of us. And like I said, Gary's on the phone a lot of times. He does more of the dual citizenship help than myself, but we help people along, guide them when we can, give them information, where we can. We're not, Italy's laws change so frequently that, I hate to put things in writing because what's today, it will change tomorrow. But we can definitely help and guide. And so email us and use our social media to text and we'll get back with you.
Oh, yeah.
We always like helping people.
No, that's great. And thanks a lot. I really appreciate you taking the time. Travel safe.
Will do.
Enjoy Italy. And sometime, I don't know if we'll meet in Phoenix, but maybe we'll meet in Italy one time.
That's okay
we
with
have
us.
done that many times and have made friends till today, meeting in Italy. Yeah. It was great to meet you, Robert.
Great to meet
Thank
you,
you.
Robert. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.